Hey everyone, it's that time again. Just been into town and picked up this, which is issue number 15 of the Build the Millennium Falcon series. A lot more interior detail going in today by the look of it. We're starting to prepare some of these archways, which looking at next week is, I recognise these are going to be for some of the internal corridors to take you from the flight deck or cockpit back through to the main hold, which we've almost finished now. So let's do the usual. We're going to open it up and see what's to be done this week. Okay, this edition basically gets us to do what I jumped ahead to do last week, and put all the framework and plating together that we've got so far. There's an interesting little bit in this week's about the additional landing struts that were put on initially to hide some of the filming mounting holes in the bottom of the hull on the model. So what they did is they put those 2 extra landing legs on, because it was originally 3, now it's 5, which I think I mentioned in one of my previous videos. As you can see there, these 2 weren't in for A New Hope. They only arrived on Empire Strikes Back. And what they did is these are originally apparently mounting ports for the model to be filmed against a blue screen. Then when they realised they wanted to show it on the ground, they basically what they did is they came up with these extra 2 sets of landing structures, which plugged those holes, hid the mounting holes for the stand, and of course they worked it into the film. In the beginning of Empire Strikes Back, you see Chewbacca just finishing off the modifications to the new landing legs, where Han says, well, why do you want to rip those apart now, we're leaving, kind of thing. Anyway, so that's really what we're doing. We've got a lot of plastic rings and cushions, so we've got more. These are going to be for the internal corridor sections that are going to lead on from this and this end of the hull. They're going to sort of start to move around, but we've got a bit more hull plating in there and whole framework, and I'm happy to say this is where you start to see it going together. This is where I sort of jumped ahead a bit last week, and they give you a bit of info of what the bottom of the model looks like, and again the plan. So for me there's not much to do this week because I've already done most of it, but I will put those final 2 pieces on now, and depending on how patient or impatient I'm feeling, I might go ahead and start putting those cushions on. It's pretty obvious that they're just more of the same. It doesn't tell us to do anything with them this week, but if you look ahead to next week's, this is the corridors. Looks like the tubing and the flooring for the corridor that's going to go from the hold up to the cockpit, I think. So I'll fit these new bits on and I'll show you how we're doing. Okay, this is the whole plating, or the whole plating and the framework for the lower front half. If we put it down like that, you can now start to see the shape of the Falcon coming together. So this is going to be landing gear here, landing gear here. That's the front, and the 2 mandibles are going to go out that way. So yeah, it's taking shape now, a little bit more each week. The assembly is still going together nice and straightforward. It's a good bit of strength in this. Very impressed. But what I might do actually soon is some of these panels need some additional paintwork. There's some red. I don't know if you can see. If I zoom in on that, just there. There's a red panel there, which needs to go here somewhere. And on the other side, there's going to be a grey panel. Here, there. So some of this extra paintwork has to be put in. The flat piece that I mentioned last week that looks a bit odd, the reason it's flat is because it's going to have this large central raised piece added, which is why it's flat at the moment. So we're getting there. That's all it tells you to do for this week really, is just assemble the hull, which I've pretty much already done. But it is starting to feel like the whole thing is coming on now. That's obviously going to fit in like so, and we've got some bits next week for the I think that's going to actually end up, where's the front? I think it ends up something like that, slightly offset from centre. Yeah, more to do on the next one. I'll probably wait until I've got another issue, because again it's a bit of a short video if I just leave it at that, so I'll probably add some more later. Bye for now. Just before I finish this one, I thought I'd put everything back together on the plan, so you can see how it's starting to take shape. So we've got the lower plating in place, the interior. I think it's roughly going to sit there. I think it's maybe back a little bit and over to this way a little bit, but that's roughly where it's going to go. And then obviously with everything else, so it's starting to come together. Hey YouTubers, right, I've just had a big delivery, great big blue bag, and it's from D'Agostini. This is how they come if you subscribe, if you haven't yet subscribed. So it looks like they come about 4 at a time, 3 or 4 in a pack. So these are all actually repeats that I've already been impatient and gone out and bought, so they're spares which I can then sell on if anyone's missed an issue or something. It's good timing because I haven't bought this week's yet, and here it is, number 16. So this is internal corridor work by the look of it, and we get a bit of a sneak preview of next week. But there's something else in the package, and I think that said something about the Han Solo figure that you get if you subscribe. I think it's a little free gift. So I'll see if I can get this out one-handed. Probably make a mess of it. There we go. So there's a few little free gifts that you get. Excuse me. One is the binder for the for all the issues. I'll see if I can do this one-handed, so bear with me. Another one I think is a wall stand, so you can actually have the Falcon displayed on its landing gear, or you can take the landing gear off and put it on a big bracket that goes on the wall. And I remember seeing this in the adverts for it, but I've no idea what it's like or if it's any good or not. But here we go. I wonder if I can lift that out with one hand. Yes, I can. This isn't really my sort of thing. I'm not really into figures as such. Ships, yes. Not so much figures. But we'll see what it's like. It's wrapped up like an Easter egg. I might have to put the camera down for a minute, I think. Yeah, I won't be a second. Ah, it's all taped up, that's why. And it's got one of these cable ties that goes right through the package, so I won't be a second. Apologies for this. Can always edit it out later. So I doubt the camera's pointing in the right place now. So we have a little Han Solo figure. What was he? I don't know, 6-8 inches tall, something like that. What's under here? Hopefully an arm and a gun. The old Mauser, I think it was that they used, the old German Mauser, wasn't it, that they built that around? There we go. He's not too bad, is he? Now, don't you just wish that the Falcon was in scale with this? It would be like 12 feet across, wouldn't that be cool? Or silly, one of the two. If anybody hasn't found it yet, there's a website out there on the the internet, there's a guy in America trying to build a full-size Falcon. Don't know if he'll succeed, but my god, that would be an attraction and a half to go see, wouldn't it? Right, so there we go. So that's the D'Agostini free. Oh, there you go. Build the Millennium Falcon, D'Agostini. It's not limited number or anything printed on it, but that's okay. It's not too bad actually. Paintwork's a bit scuffy around the arm, but it's not too unrealistic. Quite good detail around the belt. The gun's quite good. The face is quite good. So there we go. That's what came in the box with today's issues. Anyway, I'm going to open up issue 16 and we'll see what's to do, and I'll come back later. Okay, with issue 16 we've got a bit more framework, a bit more plating, and that pretty much looks like almost half now of the bottom hull, the lower hull. That's the view from inside, and that's what it's starting to look like outside. You can actually see now there's some shape coming together. As I've said before, don't worry about these different colour panels, because there's going to be a box section over there and another one there and another one there, and there's paintwork to do later as well, but it's really starting to take shape now. So that's the framework and plating, and then over here we've got a few more bits and pieces, and this is the start of the corridor, which looks like it's going to fit in there. And then we've got some rings, some of these cushioned rings to build. But the idea is then you can go through the corridor. I don't know if I can do with my webcam, my little camera here, through the corridor and into the hold, and then obviously that's sort of what you'll see the other way through. So I'll start building those later today. Basically it's some of the pieces that we got with the last one. It's three rings and all the little cushions, and rather than doing them one at a time this time, what I might do is just cut them all off, trim them all, and then just glue them on. Do it in 3 separate stages, otherwise it gets a little bit monotonous. So there we go. So we're getting there, folks. I'll leave it at that, and I'll do a bit more later. I'll show you something when there's something a bit more interesting to show you. But that's all for now. Bye. Hi. Right, we're on issue 16, and I'm starting to build up all the internal corridor archways, which will look something like that when completed. Now, each of these needs to be cut away with a really straight edged pair of cutters, something like those. However, you still get if I can focus, come on, focus. There's a little bit of rough plastic sticking out either side where the sprue was. Now, when I did the first one of these, I very meticulously cut each one out, filed every one down, and put them on that way, and that's fine. But now we're doing four of them in total, and another 3 now. I've realised that it's actually far easier to start gluing them on, cut them off, start gluing them on, and leave the little bit of rough sprue on the outside, and then you simply get your sandpaper or file or whatever method you're going to do it, and you can just do the whole thing in one go basically, and it's just so much quicker. So yeah, just a little tip I've found out. I reckon that makes it a lot quicker. You can see the bits sticking out there just on the edge. They need to come off, but rather than doing them one at a time, I'm super gluing them all in place, and then I'm just going to do it with a little flat file and go around the edge. I think that's going to be a heck of a lot quicker. So I shall try that out, and I'll let you know how it goes. Okay, that is a much easier way of making these little interior archways for the corridor section. Basically, instead of doing each one of these little pads separately, I've just cut them all off, put them all on, and I've filed them all down together. This thing is much easier to handle because it's bigger. You're not trying to manage and file off those tiny little things, and it's come together much neater than the other one, and in a fraction of the time. Now don't forget, this is resin, not plastic, so we're using super glue, or cyanoacrylate to give it its proper title, which does bond your skin together very quickly, so be careful. You only need a tiny amount on the inside. Actually, I was putting it on the inside, on the back of the white piece, just a tiny drop, and that's enough. Push it in, make sure it's in all the way, and it's quite strong, and I can file those quite easily while they're in place, and none of them came away. Now the other thing I should say, because it's resin, when you're filing it, you don't want to be breathing in the dust. You don't want to be breathing in anything plasticky or any fragments of anything, but resin in particular can be a little nasty. So yeah, so take all the usual precautions, as you should anyway when you're using these sort of glues. Make sure you're in a ventilated area, and don't go breathing in all the dust, because it won't do you any good. Okay, on to the next one. Hi again. Okay, this is this is what it will look like at the end of issue 16, I think it is. So these loops are the arches. They're only just sitting in place at the moment. They're not glued yet. It tells you not to glue them just yet. But you can see how the corridors are going to start to come together. There's going to be another one that goes off of that side as well. But you get an idea, sort of view-wise, I guess, as you look through there. It'll start to look a little bit like it did in the movie, maybe. I can't see actually the way I'm holding it, but there you go. And then you've got the corridor, which is going to go around the corner, and then it's going to turn, and it's going to go into the cockpit in here, taking up to there. So just a rough, silly way of showing you roughly how it's coming on. No real problems to speak of. These don't fit particularly well. One or two. That one's quite a good fit. That one not so. That one's really loose. So I think the ends are going to need a little bit of work to go in there before they're going to actually stay in one piece. But basically it's a little sort of dovetail effect that they're supposed to fit into. They fit, just not brilliantly, so I think that one needs a little bit of work, but again, you get the idea how the corridor is going to be. What I might do actually, you might notice a difference between the floor colour on there and on there. On there I used some Vallejo paint, which is it's black metal, so it gives you a bit more of a metallic feel to it than the bare plastic, so I'll probably do the same thing again. It's acrylic paint. It's that one. It's the Model S for airbrush, and that's the black metal. It's number, what is it? 71073, I think, is what you'd order if you want some. So yeah, good paint, that stuff. And that's pretty much, just sealing up the glue, that's pretty much it for this week. It gives us an idea, which I think I showed you earlier in the video, how the last panels go in. So we've got that much now. So internal assembly is continuing, and what are we going to get next week? What are we going to get next week? Right, we got a bit more lower hull plating and framework, a bit more of a corridor by the look of it as well. Not sure what these bits are, probably some sort of internal pieces again, you should think. So there we go, we're what, 16 issues in now, and it's starting, if I can find my zoom, starting to take some shape. Okay, I've just sprayed the floor of the bottom of the connecting corridor there, so it's just got that little bit of a metallic sheen to it, which differentiates it itself a bit like that floor does from the walls. But I'm going to do a bit of a wash later on, just to try and dirty up the floor and make the panels stand out a little bit more. I was looking at the front piece of the hull that we've got so far. This is the bottom of the hull, as I've explained several times in the other videos, so apologies for repeating myself. But I think, if memory serves, there's a panel here that should be red, if memory serves. And to check this, I'm going to resort to, now here's something I mentioned in one of the earlier videos. This is another model of the Millennium Falcon. It's not the D'Agostini one, so I'm just going to put that way up so that there's no strain on the framework. This is by a Japanese company called Fine Molds. This is an absolutely superb model. This isn't like the AMT Ertl one or some of the sort of normal ones you see. This is the real deal. This is the a super accurate model of the Falcon. The kit alone costs about £300 these days on eBay, if you can find one. It's roughly half the scale of the D'Agostini, but just look at the detail, look at the way this has been put together to show you the detail, the paintwork, the weathering, the oil and rust stains, etc, etc. It's just beautifully done. They've got lots of model shots here of the studio model, close-ups of various sections, some of the damage on the hull, engine exhausts, you name it. Lots and lots of detail there, and lots of instructions for painting. Now again, this is the next level down. Instructions. Now there's over 900 parts to this kit, but again, look at this for painting details. And in fact, that is the little square piece I was just talking about. Got to go. Somebody at the door. Hey everyone, it's time for Build the Millennium Falcon issue 17. Excited, there's quite a bit to do this week, which will be good. Just looking ahead, that's kind of what we got this week to do, so a bit more hull plating and hull framework, a bit more of the internal corridors by the look of it. Next week looks a bit odd, big clear piece by the look of it, unless I'm seeing that wrong. So yeah, interesting. Right, I'm going to unpack it and see what we have to do this week. Come back to you later. Okay, well, this week in issue 17, it's essentially building up the corridors. This is the part of the corridor we had last week. It's pretty much as is, although I did spray the floor to make it look a little bit more metallic to separate it from the plastic. And I used, I think it was that one, Vallejo black metal, just to get that effect. It was just airbrushed, and it looks like we've got more of the same corridor, and we've got, this is all the padding that goes around the walls. So basically we're starting off with the largest one, so it's just a case of clip them off nice and cleanly. Take off any excess where the sprue was, and then cement them in place. So well, super glue them in place. Don't forget this is resin, so on resin the normal polystyrene cement won't work, so you've got to use the super glue. Okay, I'm going to do a bit more, and I'll show you how I'm getting on. I just thought I'd mention this bit. We're on issue 17 here. These are cushions for the inside of the corridor, and it tells you here to take number 6 for the outside of the corridor and number 9 for the inside of the corridor. But it doesn't tell you which way up they're orientated, and I've discovered, I've left these in, I haven't glued these in yet because they weren't a very good fit. I think they're going to need modifying before the sealing goes on. But what that did do is allow me to pop these back in and just have a look, and basically the cushions want to run parallel like so, and what I discovered was the cushions are slightly wider at one end than the other. Now certainly with that one I've put the narrow end at the top because that's on the inside wall, and that tends to look better, although it's not overly clear. There it looks like the wider pieces at the top, whereas here you've quite obviously got the narrower part at the top. So just keep an eye on that. It would be very easy to put them in the wrong way around. Okay, at this stage you should have the lower assembly for the corridor looking something like that, and then you've got the roof of the corridor, which those three lugs here, 1, 2, 3, are going to fit into those 3 holes there. Hopefully the whole thing will fit together. Here's hoping. Okay, bit of an alert time. These corridor rings can be put on the wrong way round. You see the lugs at the top, they should all be in line at the top. The centre one I had wrong. Luckily I'd only used a tiny amount of super glue and I was able to get it off again. But check before you glue these in, make sure those lugs are at the top. They need to be in the centre of the top of the corridor to match the reciprocal holes in the top half. So I've just had to break this one free, clean it up and re-glue it. So yeah, just make sure that these lugs are at the very top at 12 o'clock if you like. Okay, luckily that closes quite well. That's the corridor as we speak. That's what it would look like if we were going through it. Dum, 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 dum. There you go. Now the lugs you can actually see, make sure they all do come through because they make the fitting much easier. And now there's a ring that should go over this and hold the whole assembly together. For now I'm just going to pause the camera, do that and come back to you. Okay, and that's what it should look like. So we've got the locating ring in place, and that's keeping everything where it should be. You recognise that there is the door to the quad cannons in the centre. You go that way, it'll take you up to the chest table in the main hold. You go that way, it's going to take you back to the rear compartments, and then the tube that we're in is going to go towards the flight deck. So it now suggests that we put them together like so. I'm interested to see how these are going to hold together, so let's do it. Take the main hull assembly that we've got so far. Hopefully those floors should match. Still need to do a bit of a wash on the one on the corridor. So that is going to fit something like this, although I'm not quite sure how. There we go. It just fits straight in. There we go. We have completed internal tunnel assembly, which we should be able to see what that looks like through there, through to the chest table, and we can see what it looks like from the other perspective from here. We're actually starting to see some corridor around the corner in here now. There's a bit of a open space there, so there's obviously some wall to come in, but it's coming together, isn't it? Pop that through there. Yeah, you can see, if I put my hand there, there's some open space, but you can see the corridor starting to be assembled there. So there we go. That's that I think is the rest of the internal stuff for this week. We can have a look down through there as well. So yeah, so that there in here is going to be the way through to the quad laser section. So far so good. I just thought I'd show you this. This is just a quick look ahead. This is at the end of issue 17, and we get one more piece of hull frame, which I think is this one. I'll just put it in, and one more piece of hull plating, which is this one on the end. Now normally I sort of go ahead a little bit. I have again this week. This one's in quite firmly. This one though, there is just so little holding that one that I'm going to leave that back off again, but I just thought I'd put it together carefully just to show you what it's going to look like. This is my problem. if you go ahead and fix this one on, there's only 2 screws holding it, so that would be very, very risky. So there you go. So that's what the bottom of the hole's starting to look like. Now, you may have noticed this great big gap here, and I think what we're looking at there is this is where the loading mandibles are going to be. There's going to be one this side and one that side, so I would anticipate that this reciprocal piece for over here is also going to jut out quite significantly. But you can really see the bottom half, the lower half, front half of the hull coming on there. In fact, what I might do for reference is, if you come with me over here, it's all looking a bit weird because I'm getting ready to move, so everything's in boxes at the moment, but this I showed you on an earlier video. This is the Fine Moulds Millennium Falcon. Superb it is. And they give you some amazing, I mean, just look at this. And that's life size, so if you actually take the model out, the painting guide is life size. Superb. So yeah, but you can see on this one is every tiny little piece to fit on, you know, even the surface details not present, everything's got to go on this. But they've got this particularly fine set of painting guides and pictures, and this one's really cool as well, so you get to see it from every angle, you know, above, below, from the front, from the back. And this is a bit I was going to see, because we've just effectively put together this piece of the lower hull. In fact, I'm going to leave that one off so I don't break it. But remember how that one was pointing out just a little bit? Well, if we take this and if we put it there, we can see now, although this is a much bigger scale, but this piece here is effectively this one here, and yeah, this is where the outer hull here is slightly protruding a little bit more than the hull here, and this is of course where the mandible is going to go. So on our big model, this is where the loading mandible is going to go, sort of from there to there. Now it's actually very accurate. They both are, wherever I put it. This bit here, if we just lay it there for now, okay, so that's on there. Now you can see, so this big area here, as we spoke about earlier on, is for the newly installed front landing gear on either side that was put in. You saw Chewie working on at the beginning of The Empire Strikes Back. This is a sort of inspection hatch thing which is going to be in here. But if you look at the detail here, so over here where we've got to put our little red mark, or red panel's going to have to go about here, I think it works out at. And if we come along, we've got this small panel here, which is that small panel there, and sure enough the hull steps out a bit there, so this bit is going to be wider than this bit here, and then we're going to start to see detail in this gap here of the lower half of that front, the lower half of the landing, sorry, the loading mandibles, I think they call them. So yeah, not quite sure on Star Wars lore there as to what that actually means, whether these things literally move, or what, you never see it in the films obviously, but whether these mandibles actually move like a set of pincers, like mandibles, which is why they're called that. So yes, that would be interesting. But and apparently, I think I saw somewhere there's actually missiles been added up in here on Han's Falcon. But there we go. So and literally between the Fine Moulds one, I mean, you can almost see every piece of detail is in the right place. Bear in mind these are made by 2 different people. In fact, there's more detail here on the Fine Moulds one than there is here on the Agostini one. There's a couple of bits missing from there, so they're very close. They're not identical, but they're very close. So yeah, a bit more done. These patches, I was talking to you earlier in an earlier issue about the different colours. Don't worry, because it's going to be covered up by this thing. and obviously by these. So yeah, but if you've got access to the fine molds Millennium Falcon model, like this one here I was very lucky to be able to find one. Well, actually it cost me 300 quid, so it's an expensive model. So whether that's lucky or just me spending too much money on models is another thing, but it's just superb for the detail, for the you know, the weathering that goes on. It's just a superb bit of kit, this really is. In fact, if anybody wants any close-ups of these, just let me know which section, and I'll sort of do this on the video, and I can actually show you the detail. This is obviously the underside now. You know, the quad laser turret, the landing gear, etc., etc. Got to do that grey panel on the larger, the D'Agostini Falcon. Lots of patches still to do on the big one, on the Build the Millennium Falcon series. This fine molds one, it gives you the decals and they're already distressed, so you don't have to put them on and then scratch them away. They're already looking a bit tired and a bit scratched up. Yeah, some around here, look. But yeah, superb model that will be. But I have to say, there's probably almost as many parts, of course it's all in Japanese, there's almost as many parts on this as there is in the big one. And in this one, of course, you get to put it with, if you want to model it as it was in Star Wars, then you've got Luke, Ben, Han and Chewie. If you want to do the scene from sort of Empire Strikes Back where they're going through the asteroids, then you've got Leia in her, and they're all got the different clothing on, you see, for the different films, so you can model them from whichever film. Although, because this model has the extra landing feet, the extra 2 landing pads, you'd really want to model it as the Empire Strikes Back version, not the New Hope version, because you might have the right characters for the New Hope, but the ship would be wrong, because you'd have 5 landing gear instead of 3. But that's just a bit of rivet counting. But then again, that's why we build models, don't we? It's you need to be a bit of a rivet counter at heart to be a model builder, because you like the detail and you like it to be right. So yeah, but this, I mean, this could be lit up as well. Actually, I'm planning to build one of these. Well, I'll build this one at some point, and I'm planning to light it. But because the hull is in 2 big halves, it would be very easy. I'm even considering doing the landing lights that you see on it in Empire Strikes Back. A bit like the big one here, we can do it in flight mode or in landed mode. But, of course, whichever you do, you're going to want 2 of them, because you're going to want to see it in both. I think on the D'Agostini one you can take the landing gear off and it can be mounted to a wall mount. Likewise with this one, you can have it with or without the landing gear. So yes, all good stuff. The detail on this is actually quite interesting. This is some aftermarket parts that I bought for the fine molds version. So you've got the cockpit decals and the lighting stuff, so you can light the cockpit and see the corridor behind, that sort of stuff. Obviously much smaller, this one. But again, look at the detail you get to really help you get the you know, the paintwork right, the damage right. You've got the damage there, and you've got the dents over on the far side by the antenna, or rectenna as they call it, and then a bit more down here. This is the part that we're actually building at the moment on the big D'Agostini one, the underside. This is interesting. That's going to be interesting to model, because there is some massive damage on the underside of the Falcon there. There's the big dent on the underneath of the cockpit here. There should be a big dent on, we're not seeing it this side, on the other side, the docking ring on the other side. Yeah, you can just see a bit of it there, some damage there, and then a great big bit of damage, and that's the the entry ramp there. So some superb detail here. You can see the little bits of rust, little bits of oil. Very, very well done. Very well done. Okay, so I think that just about wraps it up for issue 17. There's not much more we can do just yet, so I'll get this up and edited. I think I'll put this all together. If it's long enough, I'll get this up on YouTube in the next day or so. So I hope you've enjoyed. I hope it's been helpful. If you've got any questions, just ask. I've kept some spares here. Obviously, if anyone needs, just let me know, because I can send them on, or I might put them on eBay at some point. But I was keeping some because I've got the spare, for example, the spare lighting pieces for the cockpit. I was also thinking of doing some additional work to it. In one of these, for example, I've got a spare console for inside the hold. And I was thinking of getting some fibre optics and doing that. You see all those lights behind 3PO? I was thinking of just bringing some fibre optics through that bulkhead. So I might do that. I might not do it with this one. I might do it with the spares and then change parts over later. So we'll see. We'll see. But there we go. So that's it for this week. Thanks very much for watching. I hope it's helpful, and I'll see you soon. Take care.